Hi.
And today we have a very special guest.
I'm Kayla.
Yeah, so having a special guest is very appropriate for our special Halloween episode here, as we're doing the second episode of the new Scooby-Doo movies, which famously featured special guests in each episode. Usually real, but in this case, pretty fictional. But yeah, this episode is the dynamic Scooby-Doo affair, which obviously features Batman and Robin as the special guest stars in this episode.
Got any history with the new Scooby-Doo movies or Scooby-Doo franchise in general?
I loved Scooby-Doo when I was a kid. There's another Batman and Robin episode of this that I think I remember more, because in rewatching this episode, like, I didn't remember big chunks of it, but I remember watching these all the time. But I remember they were all Scooby-Doo shows in general were always on in the mornings. So I just watched random episodes of either What's New or this or 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, stuff like that.
How about you, Kayla?
I think I was introduced to Scooby-Doo. I had this friend who lived down the street, and I would go to her house, and she and her dad were I don't want to say weirdly obsessed with Scooby-Doo, but kind of weirdly obsessed with Scooby-Doo, because by then it was early 2000s, and I feel like not many kids were watching, old school Scooby-Doo like that. And I just remember her dad was making a mural on her bedroom wall of Shaggy and Scooby, and I was like, oh, what's that about? And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, I totally get it. It's really cool. But I feel like I came into the era where they were making a lot of I guess they always made those hour-long specials, but they would be out on VHS, and you could just pick them up, and
Yeah,
they were really corny. And
I know that's a relatively modern thing Scooby-Doo did, in starting the 2000s. His first one was Escape from Zombie Island.
Yeah.
Which, this is what I know just from general, because Scooby is one of those things I really like, but it's not a top fandom for me. But that was the first new Scooby project in years, I think, since a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal when it came out.
Yeah, I remember that being a real big deal. I was legitimately pretty excited for it, and I was a teenager, because it was going to be a real dark and scary mature take on the characters.
Yeah.
It was probably the most mature
I guess,
take on
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
My favorite one was the one with the Hex Girls.
That's the second one. I forget what it's called. I think it's the Witch's Ghost. But I know it's in Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah.
That was my jam.
Cool.
What about you, Kendall?
Very similar story. I'd gotten cable TV towards the end of middle school, and Scooby-Doo just always was on Cartoon Network. I was kind of fascinated with how many different series there were.
Yeah, how they were all similar but different from each other.
Yeah, they all had slight differences, and it's okay, this one has Scooby-Dum, this one has Scrappy-Doo, this one they're all kids.
I've always had a real soft spot for Scooby-Doo, and I'm not entirely sure why. It might have just been because it was always on when we were kids. But I don't know if you remember back when the Wii was new. One of the first things I did with the meme makers, I made the Scooby Gang, because I found out you can make a guy look kind of like a dog. So I thought it'd be funny if they were populated the baseball teams in Wii Sports.
Ah, I love that.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. We've kind of always been around. You convinced me during the lockdown to watch Mystery Incorporated, and it was so really good.
Funny you mentioned that. I'm going to bring that up pretty early in our discussion of the episode. But before we get into that, Kayla, I guess we should ask you, what's your history with this interpretation of Batman, or Batman in general? Did you watch these old, typically we talk about the 60s Batman show on here, but this kind of tied into the Super Friend TV show, I guess.
Yeah, this version of Batman is very cut from that same cloth.
I remember my dad always having episodes of this Batman version on TV, because this is what he grew up with as a kid.
Well, the animated one?
Oh, not the animated one, the live action one.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I remember being enthralled with how goofy it is and things like that, but I don't know, it was never anything that I sought out on my own, but then you guys started this podcast and they've been on a lot in the background of our home now. So it's kind of just like how that is come back.
I guess for context, Kayla and I are married.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah.
In watching this Batman show, she's sat in on a couple episodes and
yeah. And when we went to the drive-in as a trio and met Batgirl and Batman and saw the Batmobile and got our picture taken.
Oh yeah.
And it was hurricaning while we were watching the movie at the drive-in. That was great.
That was a really fun experience.
Yeah, that was pretty bananas. Shall we get into it?
Let's dive right in.
All right. We're watching the new Scooby-Doo movies, episode 2. I didn't get any who the writer was or anything on this episode. In the end credits, I feel like it just lists every single writer on the series.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Because I have the list of all of the credits on it, and it's like 20 people. And
and it's just like, hopefully it didn't take that many people to craft this episode, but
I can't imagine it.
So unlike our normal episodes, we won't be bringing up any writers or directors. Let's get into it. We first meet our Scooby gang as they're driving through, I don't know what this setting is. It looks like they're driving through a jungle.
Yeah, I thought they were in Florida.
Yeah, it looked kind of like a swamp or something.
Yeah.
I think it's just, they probably just had, so Hanna-Barbera is notorious for like reusing animation and just like everything's on the cheap. So I imagine they probably just kind of had this background, because ultimately it doesn't really matter. I guess they're sort of in the vicinity of Gotham City.
Yeah. So as they're driving to the Mystery Solvers Convention, or
the Mystery Club Conference is what I have written down.
Yeah, which is an event that we kind of get to see take place in the Mystery Incorporated Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. That's cool. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like a more recent time Scooby met Batman in the Brave and the Bold movie, where like there's like because this is a thing from the DC comics where there's like a secret detectives club where they get together and like solve unsolvable mysteries. I thought it kind of reminded me of that.
Wow. I hope that that's true, because when I first heard that they were going to the Mystery Club conference, I was like, wow, that's very convenient that exists for your mystery club.
Yeah, like the conceit for that movie is like they get the Scooby Gang specifically gets invited to that because of their detective skills. And then a mystery happens and they have to team up.
Well, I imagine we'll eventually talk about that movie. So yeah, as they're driving through this jungle, a plane flies overhead, almost killing them. But they take it pretty well.
And it's like a giant cargo plane too. It's not like a 2-seater little,
Yeah, a huge
it's like a
plane.
giant plane just landing in the woods.
So they're like, oh, someone must be in trouble. And they go to check it out. And this huge cargo plane unloads one single crate.
Yeah, instead of just some random house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they take it to a random house and
a mysterious farmhouse.
Yeah.
These kids are so damn nosy. That was my thought. It was like,
they meddle. That's their thing.
It's none of their business. I mean, I guess it turns out to be a mystery, but like, I'd like to see the episodes in between the episodes we get where they're just like butting their nose into people's business and everything's on the up and up, and it's like, just get out of here.
Why are you in my house?
I'm gonna press charges.
I mean, that raises a good question. If they weren't there, I think this whole mystery probably would have got solved anyway, because we find out very shortly after they start investigating that like Batman and Robin are also investigating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they follow this truck to an old farmhouse, as we said, and they get there. It's very strange. Everything's nailed down to the floor. The crate is strapped to the floor. And in pops Batman and Robin,
who also just entered this house.
Yeah, I actually, my first note is like, does nobody lock their hideout?
Exactly.
They just walk right in. It was like clearly illegal. Well, we're about to find out like illegal things are happening.
So right off the bat, what's up with the neck in Batman's costume?
So it's an animation error. It was supposed to be colored in and it just wasn't.
Oh no.
Whoa, yeah.
Which we can get to at the end because there's one really bad one.
There's a bunch of weird
but
errors.
I do have a list of all of the animation errors in this episode.
Oh, nice. Cool. So yeah, Batman sees these kids and instead of being like, hey, get out of here, he kind of immediately trusts them and teams up, which I feel like is something our Batman we're usually with would never do.
Yeah, he would never put just teenagers other than Robin into harm's way.
Yeah.
Robin has had like training and stuff. So
Yeah.
like
Robin's deputized.
yeah.
The Scooby Gang, like we said, are meddling.
Also, why wouldn't he assume that they are like responsible for things here? Oh, and while we're meeting Batman and Robin, I want to point out they're not played by Adam West and Burt Ward, obviously. Robin's played by Casey Kasem, who's already on the show doing Shaggy's voice, and Batman is Olin Soleil. They both were playing the animated versions of Batman and Robin in the earlier show, the Batman Superman Hour, and then continue to play it in this, and will play it in Super Friends and like all of its spin-offs.
Cool.
And I gotta say, so even as a kid, I've always loved Casey Kasem's voice,
Yeah, me too.
and like I love his Robin, and I don't know, it was one of the earliest voices that can, like as a kid, you can like detect that he's doing like multiple characters. And I was thinking about that watching this, is like, I bet it's because he's got a cameo in Ghostbusters is why his voice stands out to me.
Oh, yeah. During the montage.
Yeah. And I was like, man, all my things I liked as a kid are just interconnected.
So connected. Yeah. Isn't he like what? Cliff Jumper?
Yeah, he's Cliff Jumper.
Transformers?
Is he Bumblebee?
He's either Bumblebee or Cliff Jumper.
I know he's Cliff Jumper. He might be both.
Cool. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Who did you say the Batman voice actor was? Do we know him from anything else?
Yeah, he just did a lot of voice acting around this time, but he wasn't as prolific as like Frank Welker, who does Fred, who does a million characters across fandoms to this day. But yeah, his most famous one is the anime version of Batman. And you know, I think they both do an all right job. They're not doing impressions, you know, of the 60s characters, but they're definitely like inspired by it.
Yeah, the writing is definitely inspired by that show.
Which, as people listening to the regular episodes of this podcast know, I'm keeping track of like every like holy catchphrase that Robin makes, and he has, by at least as far as we've gotten in the series so far, he has way more in this than any of the combined 2-part episodes. He might have just as much as we've watched in the series so far.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
So I'm kind of tracking to see if that becomes more and more pronounced as the series goes on. Because yeah, this takes place, you know, this aired like a couple years after the original series stopped airing. So I'm wondering how much of like a Flanderization effect there was, like Robin says holy whatever constantly.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Anyway, the Scooby Gang, they're messing around and they open the crate and find a punching clown.
Okay. At this point, Velma opens the crate and she's like, oh, it's just a punching clown. Whereas if I opened a crate in a spooky house and I found a punching clown, I would be extremely scared. Like, why?
And also what's crazy is when they pull this thing out, like Batman's so unconcerned about it. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a punching clown. I'm like, you have so many clown themed villains. Like you're here investigating a crime and just a mysterious box has one in it.
Yeah, this Batman does a couple careless things. I feel like this was the second one. First off is just letting these kids hang out with them.
Oh yeah, and we're also introduced here to I forget what her name is.
Mrs. Baker.
Yeah, Mrs. Baker, like who's like apparently like lives in the house and like runs it, like not runs the house, but like is in charge of the house, and they're like completely like, oh, this old grandma, you know, she must be a victim of whatever's happening here.
And she comes down the stairs
Yeah.
in a hood carrying a lantern, which, spoiler alert, obviously she's the villain.
Well, that's how the Scooby formula works.
Right.
The first character you
The
meet
first
is the
person
villain.
you meet, right?
Yeah.
So you know she's gonna be the villain, but it's just like, you think after solving so many mysteries, anybody who walks down in any like suspicious kind of garb, I would just be like, that's the villain. Got
So,
it.
so we'll get into this towards the end of the story because I have a lot of things to say about Mrs. Baker, like her being the villain. But we got to remember this was made in the 70s for like babies.
Also, I mean, maybe Batman and the Scooby Gang just aren't so judgmental.
Yeah, maybe we're the jerks.
Innocent until proven guilty, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Scooby's punching this clown and he knocks the head off, revealing that it's filled with counterfeit $5 bills. Batman immediately knows that they're counterfeit because Abraham Lincoln's wearing a turtleneck.
He doesn't wear a turtleneck sweater. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I almost forgot to point out when they pull the clown out, Robin says, "Holy Harlequins," which is our first one.
Ah, there we go. These counterfeiters, they're like, oh, they're probably from another country. But if you're running this whole ring, like, why wouldn't you give these counterfeiters like one $5 bill at least to like go off of?
Yeah, it's a weird, obviously it's supposed to be some kind of joke, I'm sure. The audience was laughing the whole time, so
Yeah, the laugh track is excellent.
Oh, what are you talking about, laugh tracks? New Scooby-Doo movies is filmed in front of a live studio audience. So Miss Baker directs the Scooby Gang and Batman and Robin to investigate this old junkyard that's nearby, which she says is haunted. It's within walking distance to the farmhouse, so they head on over there. Or I guess they follow some tracks, right?
Yeah, because Robin says holy retreads.
They start talking about how the compactor works, which comes into play in a few minutes.
But Shaggy had a decent joke about like the crush car, like, oh, talk about a compact car.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I did like.
We watched this twice. It made me laugh both times.
Yeah, there was two things I really I'd laughed at. I'll point them out. This one I thought was amusing, but it wasn't as funny as some of the other stuff I thought.
Well, mayhem ensues.
Well, yeah, they see the spirit, which I might have been judgmental before about Mrs. Baker's garb, but again, she did not even try to change up her ghost look. It's literally the same purple hood in the same shade of purple cape thing.
According to the Scoobypedia, that's the character called Hooded Man, and this is his first appearance.
Right. Hooded Man.
Does he have another appearance?
As far as I know now.
Excellent. Well, yeah, mayhem ensues. Shaggy kind of just ditches Scooby. I feel like he's like, see you later, and just runs away.
And
Yeah.
they end up on a car that's getting pulled up on the hook into the compactor.
Yeah, the two of them hide in a car.
That's what
because Batman's inside the compactor investigating that, and Robin's investigating like the top of the crane. And then the other gang is just kind of standing around, I guess.
They're looking for clues.
Yeah.
Fred climbs up to the crane that's lifting the car while Batman rescues Shaggy and Scooby. And the hooded man puts a hood on Fred and everyone jumps him.
Yeah. And this is where we get holy hoodwinks when Fred gets unmasked, which is funny because he's usually the one doing that to people.
Good catch.
Little role reversal.
And then, they're like, well, this person got away. And then Batman has a fun line now that we're watching the original series, the 60s show. He mentions, well, we should get all that counterfeit money to Chief O'Hara. I thought that was cool, that a little bit of continuity there.
I did like that. But also, I have no faith in Chief O'Hara as a police officer. So,
oh, yeah, we've discussed this multiple times now.
Yeah, I guess I'll just put it in an evidence locker.
Is he the super Irish police officer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So after all these hijinks, they decide to go back to the farmhouse. But the house is gone when they come back.
And during this whole conversation where they're like, oh, Jinkies, where did the house go? And they're like rubbing their eyes and stuff. The animation of Daphne and Robin they look so bored by the whole conversation. They're just like, whatever.
Even though Robin says "Holy Houdini" when it's gone.
His face does not change the whole time.
Yeah.
So, at first Batman's like, oh, did we go the wrong way? But after they deduce that they didn't, Batman suggests that they were under mass hallucination, which seems like a leap. Like, that's a huge leap.
Or like group hypnotism, or didn't he say group hypnotism or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that
Convenient.
seems bizarre.
Yes.
Then again, to be fair to Batman, he is seeing a talking dog the whole time.
And he sees a lot of stuff on the daily, I guess.
I guess you have to be a certain level of insane to do any of the stuff these groups do.
I feel like we'll get back to Scooby being a talking dog in a little bit, because I have something to say about that. So the Batmobile is also gone. So they have to drive the mystery machine back to the Batcave.
Yeah, because they say, whatever caused the house to disappear and with the Batmobile was fortuitous, because they have a tracker in the Batmobile because they have to like leave it in strange situations. So yeah, they have to take the mystery machine back to the Batcave, which this led to my favorite joke in the show, when Shaggy, of course, is like, well, we get there, we get a snack. He's like, yeah, we go there and have bat milk and cookies. And then Shaggy's just like, bat milk? I thought that was funny that they pointed out that's a weird, gross thing.
Yeah, pretty creepy.
And then, so obviously they have to blindfold them so they don't know, where the Batcave is. And then Scooby's like, they're the dynamic trio. And he's like, oh, Scooby, tie you up. Because he's a dog that can talk, so he can actually like tell people where they are.
So they get to the Batcave and find the location of the Batmobile. It's at a Batman exhibit where no one would think it would be weird to be parked.
Yeah, it could have been seen as like a replica or something. And it's at an amusement park.
The Gotham City amusement park.
Yeah. Which again, he's got so many like amusements-based villains.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
I mean, we live in Philadelphia and there's no Philadelphia amusement park. It just seems like a weird staple to always have in your city.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there an amusement park in Philadelphia?
No, I'm saying that's weird that Gotham, it's called the Gotham City Amusement Park. And I was just reflecting. I was like, I don't think a lot of major cities have like.
Well, so here's the thing about Gotham City. It's sort of based on like Jersey. And like, I can see that as being part of like a boardwalk in it.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
It's not any place like descriptive enough, but I like, it would be like like how Atlantic City or like Ocean City has like, amusement parks and stuff on the boardwalk.
Got it. I buy that.
That's the way I kind of because there's always like docks and like it onto the ocean and like with theme parks and stuff in Gotham. So like it's not so strange in Gotham, and I guess just as a general Batman like kind of thing that I've experienced a lot. They have not shown it in the 60s show yet, but like everything's like branded like Gotham in that. Like always like, Gotham Bank or like Gotham Industrial Fireworks Factory or stuff like that.
Well, the crew gets to the Gotham City amusement park and they go to look for clues, leaving Shaggy and Scooby in the Batmobile.
And they get to pretend to be Batman and Robin.
Shaggy and Scooby pull their normal bull where they're like, oh, we're not going in where the ghosts are. We'll stay here with the Batmobile.
Yeah, I feel like that usually gets them into more trouble.
Exactly. Because they're constantly singling themselves out, they are always the first to stumble into like the major plot point or the major villain that then in turn kicks off the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess we didn't say they pulled up and the Batmobile was just parked outside on the street.
And the Batman and Robin exhibit looks like a really small like room.
Yeah, what's in there?
Ouch. Yeah. They sweep the city every day and they only get one broom, huh?
Well, Batman's not doing it for the glory. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do in this series. But it's, of course, it's right across like the street from the haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
And like the fun thing about having Batman in your crossover is you can bring like his villains and extended characters over. And the Joker and Penguin are just like out there, like sticking their heads out, watching them.
And they look absolutely terrifying in that initial where they're sticking their head out the window.
So yeah, so I think this is based on what they looked like in the comics at the time. Because you ever see like the old memes from those, like Joker's like boner issue, or like because boner meant like he screwed something up, but like he keep talking about his boner the entire episode, like issue. So it's funny in modern sense, but yeah, where like his hair kind of makes him look like the devil.
Yeah,
There's a couple shots where he really looks like the latest like theatrical version of it.
I can see that. Yeah,
because of the hair.
Yeah, it's the hair, and like sometimes they draw his like eyes just like wide open,
like unblinking.
Yeah, it's just like
well, it costs money to animate blinks.
it does.
Yeah, they just made.
Why Robin doesn't even have eyes in this.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just think it's like silly that they're hanging out right next to this exhibit.
Yeah, so I figure we'll get into this at the end. We'll do our usual villains ranking thing. We won't count it into the main series thing, but like, I also just don't understand what they get out of this plan.
Yeah, I mean they yeah, it's truly strange.
They just like the negative attention. They're like,
Yeah, they're just criminals for the sake of it.
yeah, they don't. I
The
think
love of the
they have
game.
oppositional defiance disorder. Like they just want to always be saying no and causing a ruckus, you know?
Batman and Robin investigate the haunted house alone. You know, they're like, these are two dangerous criminals. And now that we know they're involved, like now's the time where we have to ask you all to sit out.
I mean, to be fair, that's true. Like,
I mean, that is true. It just it seems to me like maybe it's a little too late, but
Yeah, they've seen everything.
and like the bad guys have seen the Scooby Gang.
they do drive a pretty conspicuous vehicle.
Yeah. So they go inside and the Joker is using the devices in this haunted house to try to scare them.
Which I was really happy that they went to a haunted house because this is our Halloween episode. I'm like, wow, how thematically relevant.
Yeah, for real. Robin's like, what? You know, they hear a sound and Robin's like, what was that? You know, and Batman replies, it's just a recording of some talented professional thespians.
Thespians, yeah.
Don't be afraid.
Robin says, holy spine tinglers, by the way.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one.
So we're coming up on my actual biggest laugh of this episode, and I don't think it's intentional. So as they conclude their investigation, Batman just points out a door, goes, Robin, look, a door. And then they're like they then try to go through it. And I just thought that was really funny. Like, it's just at the end of a hallway. Like they didn't discover one.
There's a lot of dead air like in this show at this point.
Yeah.
You know, between everything that is said.
I feel like there's a lot of filler in this episode.
It's almost two stories in one, basically. And the first one's like unraveling and about to come to the end, it feels like. Well, at least they think.
So yeah, so at the door, Joker over the intercom's like, oh no, you found where I am. So they just walk in and it's like a big pit and they can't escape.
Yeah, and it essentially writes Batman and Robin out of the story for a while.
Because then after that, the Scooby Gang is just like, hey, they must be in trouble for no reason.
Yeah, they just come to this deduction and they gotta, you know, convince Scooby with his Scooby snacks to go in with them.
And we learn that 3 Scooby snacks is all it takes.
Yeah, I kind of think that's a lot.
You think?
That's a lot more than he usually
That's
gets.
everything.
I don't give my dog three treats in a day.
I guess. Wait a second. Before we get to this part, when Batman and Robin go into the pit, the Joker says, the pit is full now. It's pitiful. That
Yeah,
one made me laugh.
Pretty great. Yeah.
Yeah. Joker and Penguin, they're really something in this.
Yeah, we should talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, they're like pretty different from their. I guess they're not so different. They're very recognizable as the Joker and the Penguin. And same goes for Batman and Robin. Like, no one is as charming as they are in the 66 show.
Yeah, I agree.
The Joker's just like using endless amounts of alliteration and like narrating his every movement and just like talking and laughing.
And he
at
doesn't even have a
everything.
mustache.
He doesn't have his mustache.
Yeah.
The Penguin is like pretty worthless in this
Yeah,
episode.
he's
Yeah, I was thinking like he's just more of a glorified cameo. You could not have him and it would work just fine.
Yeah.
As like
Yeah.
a weird, because everything's kind of themed after more like Joker stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're in an amusement park, it's a goofy haunted house. They're using like clown things to smuggle counterfeit money.
Yeah, but I guess for as, you know, as much of a non-entity as the Penguin is, like when he speaks, it's still in the kind of aristocratic vernacular. So I guess that's like pretty much his character in the comics anyway.
Yeah. I know at this time, like those are the two most popular Batman villains, and they were frequently teamed up in the comics a lot. So it kind of just makes sense. And like you kind of get a 2-for-1, and more Batman villains are fun than fewer.
True.
You know?
I
Because
agree.
like as a kid, I also thought it was like an immediate like stakes raised thing. It was like, oh my god, it's 2 super villains.
Even though the stakes have never felt lower than this episode of
Oh
Time.
no, like as an adult, I'm like, this is really, really low stakes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like whenever they team up, they all get along really well, but I feel like they all have very big personalities and that wouldn't happen. You know, like and when we were whichever one we were watching last, not to backtrack, but it was like Catwoman, the Riddler.
The movie.
Was it the movie? Yes.
Yeah, the movie's 4 of them teaming up. Yeah.
And they all teamed up and they're all just like, nobody's trying to be the boss. They're all just like, yeah, whatever they say.
I mean, they do bicker a fair amount in that.
I
which is part of
guess.
the
I
fun.
guess.
I guess having the common enemy of Batman is
Enough.
unifying enough. But in this episode right now, we were robbed of them using the bat ropes.
Yeah, they tried to, and they were like, nothing to grab onto.
Yeah, they didn't even try. They just were like, we can't do it. Because then it has to turn into like a normal Scooby-Doo episode for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Scooby Gang quickly is separated in this haunted house.
Well,
Yeah.
because the Joker says that he wants to mess with these teens. He's like, oh, we'll get these teens out of this haunted house. And he tries to do the same things with like the ghosts and the sounds. And there's one point where the ghost, he has like a ghost dummy like pop out at Shaggy and Scooby. And Shaggy, of course, freaks out because they hate ghosts. But then he's like, oh, it's okay. It's just a dummy. And he pulls the sheet off. And under the sheet is the sharpest twisted metal on a giant spring that like, yeah.
Oh, wait, isn't that Batman though?
No.
Yeah, it's Batman that pulls it off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. But either way, I was just like, that armature looks so shaky and scary and sharp. Like, I feel like that should be concerning as well.
I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, safety standards aren't what they are
OSHA
today.
wasn't around.
Yeah. We gotta wait for Ralph Nader to come around before everything gets real safe.
My bad. I thought that was Scooby and Shaggy.
No, they would never be so brave.
You're right.
Yeah, they would have just ran away.
So they're all separated, but then quickly reunites.
I mean, while they're separated, there is a fun gag with Shaggy and Scooby
Yeah,
where like they're trying to get to the exit door, but the floor's tricked, so like it's a conveyor belt, so they can't get closer.
I thought it lasted way too long though.
It did, but I
So
thought
the
it was
Joker
pretty easy.
could say this is a running gag.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that made it worthwhile to me. But like you got to remember, this is like an actual like amusement park thing, and like that's kind of a fun thing to do, to play like
they
a
do
trick
do
on
some
somebody.
fun things.
Yeah,
There's a mannequin of a fish man.
yeah,
And in probably the only time in Scooby-Doo history, Daphne's like, "Oh, Velma, just hold my hand. I'm so scared." Like they haven't been in like 50 haunted houses by now.
yeah. They basically live in haunted houses.
Yeah.
And she's usually reaching for Fred's hand.
Yeah. But both Daphne and Velma both hold the hand of this fish man dummy and freak out, and Velma gets separated.
But then they all like meet back up in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, but it's such a weird way. So Scooby and Shaggy are walking down a dark hallway and they see two pairs of like evil green glowing eyes.
Yeah,
But we just learn it's Fred and Daphne's eyes. So I don't know if Fred and Daphne are like secret lizard people. Yeah.
yeah.
And then Velma quickly stumbles in on the group. Yeah. And they're all reunited.
Yeah, she runs into Scooby dressed as a ghost.
So
Yeah, then someone mentions there's a ghost and Scooby gets scared and runs away.
Right.
So the Joker and the Penguin are like, they're like, "Oh, dang, none of our plans worked." Meanwhile, they're like zipping up these skeleton costumes.
Which those costumes are cool.
They're very cool costumes. But this is the dumbest plan.
Yeah,
I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not as familiar, but I feel like they're not very physical villains. Like they don't normally put themselves into the plan.
well, in the 60s show, everyone punches and fights and stuff.
Okay,
At the end, that's how it always works.
got it.
But like normally, yeah, they're more schemers with henchmen, but then they'd have to animate a bunch of henchmen.
Right. That's really what it is. It just, it feels like if this were live action, it would be like they're shooting the episode of Scooby-Doo and maybe like Batman wrapped up on the set over and they're like, "Hey, would you guys mind just coming in here?" And they're all really tired, but they're like, "Yeah, I guess we'll do it." And the whole cast just seems very tired. That's how this cartoon is playing out to me.
So Joker and Penguin are trying to chase the Scooby Gang around and they're just flailing their arms.
Just walking at them.
Yeah. And everyone's like, "Oh, these probably aren't real skeletons," but because of
run away.
Scooby-Doo,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, let's just run away anyway."
Just in case they are real skeletons.
Yeah.
Which I should point out that they all have skeletons inside them. Skeletons aren't really that scary.
Yeah. I mean,
Truly.
if you saw a skeleton walking at you, you wouldn't be scared.
It doesn't
It's
have
a
like
little
muscles and
freaked out.
stuff. You could knock it over. I feel like I could very easily overpower an ambulatory skeleton. That has like no weapons or anything.
Unless it's being held together with dark magic.
That's true.
These ones clearly aren't.
Well, yeah, you can see the zipper.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
clearly not skeletons.
Wait, but then Scooby has a moment of bravery, which rarely doesn't happen.
No, it's a
Well, I
moment
think
of
he's
gluttony.
led by hunger.
Yeah. Because he's a dog in their bones.
Yeah. So Scooby does start running away, but yeah, he turns around and he's just like, "Ooh, tasty bones." And he chases them down a long hallway with a door at the end.
It's a door. Where's Batman to point it out?
Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah,
it's on the other side. So yeah, they end up falling into the same trap they laid for Batman. Why is this part of the fun house? Like, why is this part of the fun house?
You know,
Yeah.
the pit that he fell into.
Like, it seems like a lot of work for like a carnival worker to like.
Because someone would have to fish out whoever's in there.
Yeah.
There's no way out from the bottom.
Except there's this door that leads into it. Oh no, the door opens into the pit.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
So Batman and Robin immediately know who the skeletons are, and the Scooby Gang fishes everybody out of the pit.
Oh, but not before Batman has a chance to call a scrambling Joker the Crown Prince of Climb.
Oh, I did love that.
Yeah.
The Clown Prince of Climb. Yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah, wait, that makes more sense. The Clown Prince of Climb.
This also shows like even though Batman and Robin were like stuck, they still like without Scooby, I think they still would have solved these crimes because they had like a radio transceiver in their utility belts and they like called the police.
Yeah, so two detectives show up to take Joker and Penguin away. We get this weird joke where Batman's like, all right, take them away. And
Oh yeah.
Joker and Penguin are just leading the detectives away.
And then Robin's like, the other way around. No, the other way around.
And they're like, oh yeah. And then they switch places.
So stupid.
Oh, but before they're taken away, they tell Batman and Robin, because they're trying to figure out what the counterfeit money's for. And they're like, oh, the counterfeit money was just like left at our front door by a mysterious donor.
And they're like, oh yeah, we gotta just spread it around because it's crime.
Yeah, because crime.
Yeah. So they've been like putting it in like the stalls and stuff at the amusement park. So it kind of just gets out into circulation. Because I guess it's not, they didn't say abandoned amusement parks. I guess it's still in operation. They just went while it was closed, I guess.
Yeah. I guess it's like the Heath Ledger Joker is an agent of chaos. Speaking of the Joker, his voice is something in this. He's like an old timey, like, stick him up, see? Like he sounds like a mobster.
Yeah, he's played by Larry Storch, and the Penguin's played by Ted Knight. Like he's got the Cesar Romero laugh, but other than that, like it's weird.
As soon as this donor is mentioned, all of a sudden they're saying lots of he's and hims while they're postulating about who the donor is. And it's like way too much.
Yeah, they're over-gendering this criminal.
Yeah, I was like, of course it's a man. It can only be a man. Which, of course, then it's like, oh, the only other character we met is a woman. But like, yeah, in 2022, I don't like how they just jump to gender assumptions about people they don't know.
Anyone can commit crime.
Exactly.
Children who are listening, anyone can do it.
Yeah. You too can be a criminal.
You too can be a criminal.
Regardless of your gender. So they go back to the farmhouse to investigate. Everything leads back to there.
Is there anything specific that leads them back to the farmhouse?
I think it's just that was their only like dead end.
Okay.
Yeah, like why does this house keep disappearing?
Well, true, and I guess because they found the clown there first
with the money in it.
Okay, okay.
And the house, as far as they know, is gone.
Right.
But when they get back, it's there again.
Oh, I like this part.
Yeah, we get into some hijink. From here on, so this episode is already like weird, and I feel like it turns into a fever dream very quickly.
Okay, so Joker and Penguin leave, and it's about like the 25-minute mark. The whole episode is about 40 minutes. Yeah. So the whole next part should really be summed up like in 3 minutes, but they stretch it out for 20 more minutes.
Yeah, it was really monotonous. I kind of like my brain kind of turned off halfway through it. I'm like, oh my God, just be over. It reminds me of like modern blockbuster like endings.
So they get back and to where the farmhouse was, and it's there again. So they're like, all right, let's go investigate.
And again, Scooby and Shaggy won't go inside.
But this time it helped.
That's what I'm saying. They always think they're going to stay out of it, but they're always the reason that things kick off.
So they go in the house. Scooby and Shaggy are, I don't know what they're doing. They hear an owl or something.
Who knows?
This is the second time an owl spooked them. Like, owls aren't really scary unless you're like vermin.
How many owls are you meeting in one night?
Yeah.
They jump on a branch, and it's actually a secret lever. And they watch the house turn upside down.
It like rotates from the ground around.
Right.
Yeah.
And a patch of trees takes the place of where the house was.
Yeah. I got a lot of questions.
I have so many questions about this house.
Well, that's why things were nailed down. You get it? It's that way.
I know, but my question would be, unless Mrs. Baker is making so much bank off of this counterfeit money scheme, She seems like she is wealthy enough to build a whole contraption
Oh,
that
Kayla.
will rotate her house.
See, super criminals we've learned in this our rewatch here. They just have infinite resources to commit crime. It's not about the money. They don't need the money. Penguin gets out of jail, immediately has an umbrella factory with like umbrella rockets, like, all kinds of gadgets. It doesn't matter. I said it's the love of the game.
So
incredible.
I can only imagine Miss Baker in her house doing whatever. And then all of a sudden it just starts turning around. And just like, oh, what if she was like using the bathroom?
I was gonna say, well, how's the water in the toilet? It would just fly out of there, right? The plumbing, you can't have plumbing. It's obviously not like a house that she's probably actually living in. Just there for a front, but like, why even
You don't
have
know that.
a building
They
there?
think Miss Baker's an innocent little old lady and they're just fucking with her house.
So
Are we allowed to swear?
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
So the actual house is now underground. And we get a little animation error because like the Scooby Gang is in front of a doorway when this happens.
Yeah.
Very much still shows the outside.
Oh no.
They just took the background panel and like flipped it.
Yeah. Batman and Robin discover that like the house leads to this secret cave system and like everything like gets out of scale.
Yeah, they seem giant the whole time, right?
Like, yeah, because like they're now outside of the house, but it's still a house like that they were in. It's a full-size house, but like
it looks like a dollhouse.
Yeah, it's so small now. And it just like that adds to the fever dream element of this episode.
Okay, and can you guys clear some? Well, maybe you'll keep going.
They spin the house a couple more times. Scooby and Shaggy fix it, then enter the house to like tell their friends what they discovered. But then Batman and Robin find another lever and like get the Scooby Gang back into the cave system with them.
Yeah, now everybody's underground.
Yeah. While they're underground, instead of just like remaining in whatever hiding place he was, the masked man just like runs by them, leading them into a giant warehouse or like storage facility.
Okay. Yeah, this is my question. Is there any reason why this storage house is just filled with toys?
I guess it all connects to the Punch Clown.
So we're thinking that this scheme is going all over the city, just in different toys. They're sending counterfeit money.
I guess so.
I have a feeling it's just they had these assets and just used them.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sure. We're looking for the in-universe.
Yeah, we want to know the
reason.
story behind all of the trampolines and such.
So these people are walking around this warehouse looking for the masked man. And, you know, the masked man sticks a robot dog on them.
No. The masked man turns the dial on like a dog doll and it starts barking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, this robot dog is barking. And it's here that Scooby, being a like talking dog with obvious feelings, like really
he's a
sentient weird problem. Because like Batman's like, well, someone shut Scooby up. And Daphne ties like a muzzle around his snout.
Yes.
And that seems like cruel.
So cruel. And also like I've watched many episodes of Scooby-Doo and I've never once heard him bark like a dog.
He does occasionally growl and bark at things, but not like this.
My whole thing is, why is this robot dog here at all?
So here's why it's happening.
Okay.
Because while they have Scooby's mouth tied up, it's still barking. And they're like, oh, the person must be here. So it's to tell the audience that they know that the person's there. It's dumb. Like, I think that's the reason why.
All right.
So Daphne unties Scooby's muzzle and it's just like, oh, sorry about that. But just like,
imagine you did that to your buddy.
Makes me
like,
real curious about the dynamic between like Scooby and the rest of them, like, does Scooby like shit on the floor and then like Shaggy like is like, sticking his nose in it or something?
Yeah,
Like,
or is it expected that like, oh, you're a dog that can talk, so you're a dog who can clean up your own crap?
yeah, like,
And sometimes he's anthropomorphic enough to, drive a little car around.
Right.
Yeah.
does he just use a toilet?
I would assume he uses a toilet. He seems like he would want to use a toilet.
Yeah, with how much Scooby eats, man, he's got to go to the bathroom a
A
lot.
Oh,
lot.
I'm sure, and I'm sure it's like gross.
And he is eating all kinds of food he should not be eating.
Not even people should be eating.
Well, true.
So,
Okay. What the
can someone else explain what
I can't.
happens?
Okay, so wait. So I've jumped in my notes from they've untied Scooby's muzzle to Daphne and Fred are running down some kind of rail. I don't know.
So
Wow.
a lot of it, just insane set pieces start happening as they all are chasing the hooded man.
But do they
Like-
see the hooded man again? Before?
Yeah, I think they do. And then like everyone starts chasing them and like all kinds of things. Toys and stuff are going off because like a little car Velma falls and knocks her glasses off. And
Right.
she accidentally starts up like a little toy car.
Right.
Starts zooming around and like hits Scooby, and he starts driving in it and spinning around and like knocking into everything. And
Yeah, and like Fred and Daphne are bouncing on a trampoline, which they're bouncing so high that Batman and Robin can see them from like their trapeze swing they're swinging on.
which I thought that was cool because of Dick Grayson.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that was not
Then-
intentional.
They're trying to rescue Daphne from the bouncing or something, and they like get her into the trapeze swinging act. It's really weird.
Oh, all right. The madness really kicks off when the hooded man throws a giant bouncy
That's
ball
it.
with a smiley face.
And they
on
all
it.
freak out.
Yeah, like it's the most terrifying thing they've ever
And
seen.
you're just like, you guys have seen way scarier stuff than that.
There's no reason to assume that this bouncy ball is dangerous. So there's insanity.
It's foolishness.
And then someone says the best line that will
Wait.
probably ever be uttered on this show, on any show we ever talk about.
Oh my god, what is it?
We'll never catch him. He's on a unicycle.
That's
Yeah, that's right, because they get on bicycles to follow him.
Meanwhile, while they're saying this line, they're showing the hooded man on the unicycle, and it's such crappy animation that he's seemingly just riding in a circle on the unicycle. And they're like, oh, we'll never catch him, but he's just going around in a circle.
Then they get on bicycles, which are objectively faster,
And they go on
Just-
seesaws.
just as the basic mechanics of it.
That's right. Oh my god, how could I forget about the unicycle?
I just watched it like 2 hours ago, and like my brain like
I know.
rejected all of the information that I
Well,
got.
it's like the first half was a story, and I was following the story, and then it just turns into like a circus act for 20 minutes.
It's truly insane.
There was a part where Shaggy's head is in an elephant mask, and
Oh yeah,
but then they end up inside the teepee, which there's like 20 teepees just set up in this warehouse, and that hooded man's in there. But like I wrote down, it's a TARDIS tent because on the outside the teepee is tiny, and they go inside, it's the size of like a circus tent.
Oh yeah.
It was really weird.
And then like something happens in that tent and they don't show it. And then Shaggy comes like stumbling out. Like,
yeah.
it's just like, yo, what happened to you, dude?
It's like an implied fight happened, and then Scooby comes zipping around on his little car,
That's right.
using the same animation of him like spinning and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then Velma, Fred, and Daphne on their bicycles. The unicyclist rides the unicycle under the badminton net and clears it. But then Fred, Daphne, and Velma on their bicycles run right into the badminton net. Instead of dodging it, they just lift their hands up and grab onto the badminton net and just hang from it.
Yeah. It's insane. How does this madness end? I don't even remember.
They catch him. I don't remember how, but they do.
Through a basketball net.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
Robin says holy basketballs.
I think the hooded man is on the unicycle and hits something and flies into the air.
The seesaws. Yeah.
Yeah, the hooded man rides up a seesaw, but then like Scooby crashes the car,
Right.
flips off of the car onto the other side of the seesaw, which flings the hooded man through a basketball net into the arms of Batman and Robin.
Which at this point, Batman and Robin are drawn like giants, and the man looks like a child.
That's one of the series of animation errors I'm going to bring up.
Yes.
So insane. They go outside before unmasking this guy. They like back in the house, flip the lever, which has to be such a complicated thing because the lever is outside.
Yeah, you can't do it while in the house. So you have to have somebody else flip everything around.
Yeah.
Like almost like you send somebody up to be at the other lever.
Yeah. So that's what they would have had to have done.
Yeah.
It had to split into groups. Yeah.
So they're just holding this person for like what, 20 minutes trying to get the house back.
I guess that's what arresting people is.
They finally unmask the hooded man, and he turns out to be Mrs. Baker.
I can't believe
Didn't see it coming. It's like the end of Metroid.
So nuts. Yeah.
And then she does the obligated, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that dumb dog, which I thought was very harsh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is Scooby's fault that she got caught.
But I feel like they're usually like, like you meddling kids. But she was like that dumb dog. Yeah. And he was like, what did I do?
She's a criminal. They're all bad. Oh man. Thelma's lips at the end. I mean, I know what
he's so creepy looking, yeah.
What the heck did they do?
It reminded me of when they put like live action like lips on a cartoon.
It was
bad. It was insane.
It was bad.
It was really bad.
So yeah. And then the episode ends with Batman just I don't know where he gets this sack, but it's like a huge sack full of not Scooby snacks, but bat snacks.
But actually rocks, because when he dumps it out,
it looks like
he's dumping rocks in front of Scooby.
And
so if they're bat snacks, are they things that he eats?
I guess. I don't know.
They don't look like bats. Like you said, they look like rocks.
Yeah.
The bat cookie they get earlier looks like a bat.
It did.
So what did you guys think of this one?
Oh, man, I felt like that ending was abrupt. No?
I feel like they usually are. I feel like they unmask them, they say meddling kids, and then Scooby turns the camera to Scooby-Doo, and that's the end of it.
That's true.
Yeah, So I guess because it's like the new Scooby-Doo movies, it's like 2 episodes in one.
Yeah, they're like long. They're not like 20 minutes.
But there was only 20 minutes worth of content in this episode.
Which is crazy because there are scenes that have been lost to time from this now.
Yeah. You want to go over them?
Yeah, so 2 short scenes are missing from all official presentations episodes since the mid-90s. The first is a short segment where Fred, Daphne, and Velma notice Scooby and Shaggy have gone missing while the Joker and Penguin prepare their next scare, like in the haunted house. The second's a longer segment where Batman and Robin enter the underground warehouse and elaborate on the repercussions of the widespread distribution of counterfeit money would pose on the national economy.
That would also have helped make sense.
Yeah, because all right, while we're talking about them, I don't understand what Joker and Penguin were getting out of this plan. They weren't in charge of it.
Someone was just leaving money on their doorsteps.
Yeah, like I mean, also, do they just live together? Like,
I hope so. I want them to be a couple so bad.
But even if they got all this counterfeit money, why wouldn't they just spend it
or launder it or something?
Or like it'd be one thing if they're like, oh, mysterious person kind of like hired us to to get this out into circulation or something. But it's like, no, they just gave us counterfeit money, so we concocted this crazy amusement park scheme.
Which, okay, let's think that through, because the one scene when it's Joker and Penguin in the haunted house like control room, there's a scene where it's Penguin just stuffing the cash into one of the empty clown punching bags.
Oh, so I guess it's them.
Yeah.
They're just getting the money. like from somebody else, and I guess they're figuring out ways to get it out there. But like,
Why would they send it to the masterminds?
No, yeah. Why is the mastermind sending it to them in clown things already?
right, like, and who's opening that up? Like, who? I'm just so confused, like what their next step is. Like, are you then sending the clown to another criminal? Because like, if I got a punching clown bag filled with fake money, I wouldn't immediately go, hey, I'm gonna go get this into circulation. Like,
Well, if I got that punching clown filled with money, I would be like, oh, Abraham Lincoln is wearing a turtleneck and this is worthless trash.
Yeah.
And I would like light it on fire because it's worthless trash.
Yeah, like that's not a good counterfeit.
If
It's
your
like that.
counterfeiter one $5 bill.
Do you remember the episode of Batman the Animated Series called Joker's Millions, where like a crime boss dies and like leaves all his money to the Joker, but like a little bit of it's real, but all the rest is fake? Because he tricked him into like spending all this fake money, and like now he's implicated in all of these like crimes, even though he's not doing crimes. Like that's at least
that sounds like a good story, though.
That's at least a trick on them. Oh, it's got the greatest line in it at the end when he realizes he needs to undo what he did, because he's like, listen, I'm crazy enough to tangle with Batman, but not the IRS. Like, he's going to get him for tax evasion for not paying his inheritance. But that's at least like they're tricked him, and like it's not like Joker's in on a scheme. You know what I mean?
They just have not thought this through.
Yeah. Before I get into my next point, are there any other deleted scenes?
Those just the 2 deleted scenes.
Okay, so they didn't catch all the criminals.
Oh yeah, there was those 2 dudes in the beginning dropping it off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's just like loose ends. Like maybe they're the real masterminds.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're the ones who are probably not then shipping them once they're stuffed.
Yeah, or they're getting them from the source because they were on a plane. But like between the Joker and Penguin's hideout and the house, they could drive.
Right.
So
you think that there's a bigger mastermind shipping the money to Mrs. Baker, who's maybe like the point at that's her area.
Yeah, like the Gotham City distribution
Yeah.
of this whole ring.
And then Mrs. Baker is then using already named criminals to do the dirty work.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I mean, from Mrs. Baker's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mrs. Baker's just a cog in a greater criminal machine.
Yeah, maybe that's why the plan makes no sense. We're not privy to enough of the machinations of it.
Seeing a slice of it.
So hopefully there's a,
Hopefully, yeah, she turns-
Scooby-Doo movie where we get the real conclusion to this.
Where she turns state witness. And, like, there's a couple other notable things about this episode. First, it's the first episode with an unmasked female culprit.
Oh, wow, interesting.
This is also the first time the word jinkies is used.
What?
Only it's not said by Velma, it's said by Shaggy, who says it in this one.
Wow.
And one other.
When does he say it? Do you know?
I don't remember him saying it because I'm so used to that just being part of the Scooby-Doo lexicon that I didn't notice it when he said it.
Interesting.
But the only other thing of interest, and this is probably the least amount of interest of everything, is the quote-unquote kindly old lady, Mrs. Baker, being the culprit. Is similar to the premise of Catwoman's first appearance in print in 1940. She was disguised as an older woman and told Batman unmasked her as a jewel thief. Then it says here, it's unclear whether this is a deliberate homage or a coincidence. I'm sure it's a coincidence.
I'm so sure.
So sure, yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of interesting.
Well, I guess if we were to rate the villain's plans,
I give him a 0.
This is a shit plan.
This is by far the worst plan ever. And we've seen a lot of wild stuff.
Yeah. So there was no onomatopoeia in this episode, but there was the cool like bat transition.
Oh yeah.
Which was neat. But let's go on down to the things that Robin said. We got Holy Harlequins when the clown Bop It was first revealed. Holy Retreads with the car. Holy Hoodwinks about the hooded thing with Fred. Holy Houdini with the house being gone. Holy Double Dealers when they realize they see the Joker and Penguin looking out the window. Holy Spine Tinglers with the ghost. Holy Pitfalls when they fall down. Holy Vertebrae when they land on the things that they land on.
Wow.
Holy Enigmas. And then Holy Basketballs. So that's 9, almost in double digits in 40 minutes.
Ooh,
Holy Vertebrates might be my favorite.
I wonder if we'll ever get to double digits.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't think they do in the movie, and the movie's way longer.
Yeah, we'll see when we get there.
But there's way more labels in the movie.
Oh,
Yeah, there was no labels in this. I'm upset.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. The buttons in the control room of the haunted house were all labeled.
Oh, you know what? That's fair.
Because then he was saying things that made sense, and then one of them was bubbling water, and I was just like, why?
You gotta bubble
Again-
some water sometimes.
Yeah, well, they're not going to jump real boiling water on amusement park patrons.
But does that sound particularly scary?
I don't know. Witch's Cauldron?
That makes sense.
Anything left to say about this?
Yeah. I don't think it was very good. I don't remember this one. The other one might be better because I remember that one a lot more clearly. The other Batman and Robin like team up episode of the show. But hey, we did this as a fun haunted Halloween kind of thing, just because like Scooby and those guys usually deal with ghosts and things. And then they went into a haunted house, which was kind of fun for a Halloween special.
Yeah, true that.
Listen, it's by no means good storytelling, but I thought it was good in the sense that I had fun watching it
That's all that matters.
and had fun talking about it with you guys.
Yeah, it's always fun seeing you guys, like the real Batman and Scooby-Doo mysteries were the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, it's also appropriate we're doing this now because by the time this episode is released, there will be a new ongoing Batman and Scooby-Doo comic book, like all ages comic book from DC
Oh, cool.
on shelves. As of this recording, I think it's coming out in 2 days.
Oh, cool. Well, we look forward to an update on how exciting that is.
I mean, the last one they had like a flashback issue where it was like young Batman and like the pup named Scooby-Doo versions of the characters. That was fun.
That is really fun. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we hope everyone has a great Halloween.
And we'll see you at our normal Batcast time on Wednesdays. Obviously, you have questions or comments. If you're watching this or listening to this on one of the platforms that let you comment on it, go for it. We'd love to hear it. If not, email us at batcast66@gmail.com.
Cool. All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.